It's kind of funny because the military was a real break for my family.
What year is this, by the way?
84. So I'm 60.
So in 84.
Yeah, 84.
Okay. And the military is kind of still have this, like the Vietnam hangover, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not like the most glorious place to probably be back then.
No, right? But you know what? It's kind of funny. So you just kind of, you follow your friends. And so the funny part was that my folks completely disagreed with the idea. My father being kind of like his father.
From day one, from like your freshman year, or like when you graduated?
No, I kind of signed the you signed the contract when you're a junior, and it was like my family disowned me. Said, "Hey, we don't agree with it. We're paying for college. We're not paying for college anymore." And I had like 10 grand in the bank. I had enough money to kind of get through
your
my
ROTC
last 2 years.
Didn't cover that?
No, you know why? Because all the scholarships were gone. So come out and they said, okay, you want a branch. So you get an application, just like the academy. It's like, so what branch do you want? Now, the academy, you know how they do it. They do it by class ranking. First guy or gal gets their assignment and, you know, their branch. And so if the first person wants to go to Buds or Fly or
super competitive,
or, you know, Surface Warrior or Submariner, you kind of get that spot. And then it kind of just force ranks all the way down. So, you know, I get the whole thing and they go, well, why do you want to be an infantryman? Well, I like the infantry. It goes, so it's like, you don't want to be an engineer? I go, I'm going to do that the rest of my life. I got a reserve commission. So I said, but here's the deal. I need the first possible class. I'm freaking broke. I have like $600 to my name. I've got a car and I got to drive across the country and I got to get $600, which is about enough gas to kind of sleep in the car and work across the country. Get to Fort Benning. So I graduate the 12th of June. I get to Fort Benning on July the 3rd. Sign-in's July the 5th, and it's 300 second lieutenants in the infantry officer basic course. 275 are from West Point.
Oh, wow.
So I'm in the high-speed class. So you kind of come out of West Point, bingo, bango, bongo, you're right there. So you kind of do what everybody does. You go to infantry school, airborne school, ranger school, come out. That's where I got the watch. That was my graduation gift from Ranger School.
They give you a Rolex? Oh, your dad got you a Rolex.
No, bullshit. I bought it at the exchange. It was $300 in 1985.
Ah,
so
good for you, man. Good
tax
for
free.
you.
So that's kind of my wedding ring to the Army, my wedding ring to my wife. And so,
I love it, man.
And so I go in and always had kind of like the Special Forces mission. They don't take, you know, SF is, you know, it's different in the teams. In the Navy, you can kind of branch select and go in there offhand. And in the Army, it's a little different for both the Tier 1 units then. And the perspective is the Tier 1 units weren't quite around as they were in the middle 80s when I graduated from college, started going through SF school. And so you kind of spend a couple of years in and you apply to go in. Sometimes you're recruited. Sometimes people come up and tap in the shoulder.
Into SF? Like
into SF.
Okay, so but by then, can you even apply until you got out of Ranger School? Or
No, you do that up front, but you need a couple of years. Typically they only take captains, and so that's a 3-year stick. Now, I was a bit of a controversial candidate because in the reserves, the promotions are half the speed of the active Army. So I'm still a second lieutenant. I get boarded in, and you're boarding in. You got to get interviewed by the receiving unit. You got to get boarded in by you. And that was right when the USOCOM was coming around a couple of years later. But you got kind of boarded. You got interviewed by the school. You go through the psych batteries, everything else, and then which is kind of how they handle the Tier 1 guys now. But I was influenced because one of my good friends from that time is Greg Kane. So Kaner's down in Orlando now. And so he was at Fort Bragg working in SOCOM, or the version of it then, and got to know a guy named Dick Potter. Now, Dick was the original deputy commander in Delta. And so Dick was, kind of I call him the ghost, because he was the guy that was the advanced AFO guy, basically the advanced force guy in Tehran for a month before.
And it's all in Fort Benning still?
Yeah. So, no, they're at Fort Bragg. So,
Okay.
But kind of got to know guys. And it's like, okay, well, sounds like pretty cool shit. And so what happens, your friends keep going. So I get to SF school the first phase. And the reservists come in that case in 4 phases. You go in phase 1, which is kind of basic skills. Every material SAR can do it. Phase 2 was skill generation phase. Phase 3 was SEER. And phase 4 is Robin Sage, which is the validation exercise. And they mix it up as they do now. They move SEER around. They put the defense, they put the D-Lab and the language training in there.
Where do you go to SEER school at?
In Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg. And so it's funny because I went through the second class and Nick Rowe was still running it then. And so there's times in your career you kind of sit down and go, I mean, you're just lucky to be in the right place, the right time, and talk to kind of a luminary. Got to talk to Nick Rowe for an hour. And what was about that was be very thankful for what you've got. because it could be a lot worse. And that was kind of the punchline after an hour. But Nick was just actually a really good guy. Of course, got killed a few years later in the Philippines. He was assassinated, was sitting in a car in the Philippines. But anyway, so go through SF school, come out, and I get my heart broken. And so in the old days,
Like literally from a woman, or was
from a woman.
Okay.
So I get my heart broken. I'm dating somebody who I thought was the one, and clearly after meeting my wife, she pales in comparison. But the long story short was that, and a bunch of guys that have been in either in the teams or in the special operations community, we're all a little damaged. Okay, we're all a little kind of angry at the world. We're all a little broken, and in some way, shape, or form.
The most interesting people.
Exactly. So in the old days, though, before they had Tier 1, it was all special mission branch. So if you're a SEAL or in the Navy, they'd have that group that would handle the boat guys and the SEALs, and on our side, it'd be the Rangers. We only had 2 Ranger battalions back then. It wasn't the full regiment. They had 8 SF groups, and it was like the British. They had an active and a reserve group that were aligned, like the SAS. They had, and the other smaller units, and there were other smaller units that weren't like the unit that were special missions units. So you just call the desk. It's like, and literally guys would lose a job, or literally teachers want to take a year off, they call the desk, hey, I need a deployment. For
a year, yeah.
Yeah. What do you want? I need 6 months, and they go, okay, we'll call you back in a couple of days and we'll give you some options. It's like,
shut up. I would have, if I was given that option, I would have taken that option. That seems like a pretty nice option.
It was. It's a little more, I would say.
Oh, it's not like that anymore. Yeah, for sure.
Not. But it was funny because they called back and says, hey, listen, you got, I was in 12th group aligned to 1st group, APAC. And so they go, well, you speak Italian, so how does Spanish sound? We'll send you to 7th group in Central America. Great.
That actually sounds cool.
It was cool. And so you're like 26 on the plane. You get down to Gujagapa. You transship out to Rio Hato, and you basically do. So what I spent over the next 24 months is doing drug interdiction. That was the war on drugs, which is fundamentally a mission to boil.
Now, what year is this? Is this 85, 86?
Oh, no, it's later than that. So I go through the queue in 87, early 88.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of 88.
Yeah.
So 88, 89. And so it's, you get on the wheel. So it's like you got to do missions, you get good at it.
But listen, what were you doing as a civilian at that time? Because you were a reservist.
So I worked.
Were you working for your old man's shop?
Not yet. So most people don't know, you can't get qualifying experience. So being a professional engineer is like being a CPA or a lawyer or something like that. You got to get, so in a lawyer, you kind of test and then you bar in. Well, most other, I think for the CPAs and certainly for the engineers, you need 3 years of qualifying experience. You need kind of apprenticeship work, basically. Yeah. And you get recommendations and you get boarded in, and then you take the exam, and then you get tabbed out, you get sealed out. So what happens at that point, I'm working for Dad, and then I was working for Charlie Krieger, and then I ended up working for a company called Keller & Gannon, which is now owned by Xander, which was owned by Knight at the time, now owned by NW Xander. And so they did a lot of DoD work, just who I had him to fall in with. And so it'd be like you kind of talk about funny. I'm working for them, and, I'm sent to Germany for 4 months to work. And so where do I do weekend drill as a reservist?
With some SF unit in Germany?
I call the 1st of the 10th in Bad Tolz and go, and I literally catch the duty officer. Okay, dude, this is like, Lieutenant Mazzetti here. I'm in Frankfurt working. I gotta do weekend work. I go, you gotta IG. I mean, I'll do anything. I'll come down and, clean the coffee pots. He goes, no problem. Just, hey, we got stuff. We got a little bit of work to do. So come on down. We can do target work, or you can do paperwork. Fine. Jump on the train, come down for a week and come back and do my thing. So it was kind of in the old days. It was, I would say, feels much more informal than it did today.
But you were being able to play both sides. You were being able to get that EIT
I would go
experience.
in and out. I go out for 6 months. I come back for 3 months, go out for 6, then I came back for a month and went out for another 6. And that's kind of the end of it. And so if you remember the movie American Sniper, where it's like, he's on the roof and it's like, I want to come home now. Yeah, that's how it is. It's like, there's a point, I have friends that have gone all the way to the 4-star rank. I've had friends that have gone, who've commanded significant Tier 1 units. And it's like, they're good with it. They keep going. And there's a real happy ending in one of those stories, which, but it's, and a lot of happy endings to those stories, by the way. But it's just like, I want to go home now. I'm kind of done.
Yeah, you kind of, I've not been in that same situation from the movie, but I'll tell you this. I've seen it. I've been like, when the box is full.
So that's it. And it's like, it's time. And it's really, that was about 31 and 2 things. One, I was just about to get, I just got married. And I told Mare I said, listen, she says, I want to get married. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep vanishing for 6 months and going into the hinterland and being a gunslinger.
You were just straight up South America, right?
And Southeast Asia. The ultimate mission was Southeast Asia, and that was, and what we do back then, it kind of looked like MACV SOG. It didn't look like War and Terror. It didn't look on the Balkans. It's just different. I mean, you're over the wire for multiple days. You go over the wire and you're in great shape. You come back like 16 pounds lighter in 10 days. I mean, it's really hard on the body. I mean, you come in, your uniform just dissolves off you. It's just, it's tough bush. And so, but you get through all that stuff. You do what you got to do. Come home, and it's like, okay, I know you got to stay in the reserves, but you got to get out of this. No problem.